think that this is just a solution which allows us to move past the primary issues with this. So, in case you weren't aware, there's been some debate over whether or not to continue making, minting, and using the penny as currency. And one of the primary issues that the anti-penny side tends to bring up is that currently our method of producing pennies costs on average about 1.66 cents to make. So for every 100 pennies we make, we spend $1.66 to do it. As you can imagine, this isn't exactly an idea that many people like. Efficiency is something we appreciate, and spending more than a piece of currency is worth to create it is arguably not a good idea, though some have argued that we spend the money in order to turn it into a legitimate piece of currency, so it doesn't matter what we spend on it. It only matters that it's worth money at the end, although I don't entirely understand that argument. My idea, because we couldn't simply change the penny, that would flood the economy with all the pennies that are out there right now, but my idea is to create a new coin. Stop minting the penny and create a new coin the same size and shape. It would have a distinctly different appearance. One idea is that perhaps this could be the Rosa Parks penny or the Martin Luther King penny. But instead of our regular 1 penny, 1 cent rule, it could be, and perhaps we don't even call it a penny, as to avoid confusion, but it would be not worth a cent anymore. This new coin, which we would be creating using the same amount of materials, would be worth perhaps 2 cents. So for every penny we make, worth 2 cents, we're spending 1.5 to make it. Or perhaps we're making 3-cent coins. That way it only costs half of what the coin is worth to produce it. The reason we would do this is because, as I mentioned earlier, if we just decided one day that, oh, pennies are actually worth 5 cents now, or, well, that coin exists, but if we said pennies are worth 3 cents now, it would probably be somewhere in the billions of dollars that would suddenly appear in the nation, and that would be not fantastic. As you can imagine, it would increase inflation by quite a bit, and that makes the entire economy unstable. My solution, I offer it as simply a way to create the same number of pennies but make them worth a little more. This would still increase inflation, but those who like pennies would keep their pennies. The manufacturer who makes the pennies would not have to fire their employees and try to find a new business model. We would keep all of our current systems in place. The only difference is we would have this new coin, like I said, perhaps the Rosa Parks coin or the MLK coin, that would now be worth 3 cents. Slightly more useful than a penny. Not incredibly useful, but it keeps the current systems in place while removing the primary issue many people have with pennies, which is that they cost more than a penny to produce. It's also worth considering that we might want to make it perhaps the 15-cent coin, although if we did this, we would have to make less of it, certainly, and that company might have to fire some of its employees, but hopefully less. That 15-cent coin, the Rosa Parks 15-cent coin, would be used moderately frequently, although we'd have to change things like vending machines, and that company would have to fire some employees. But in terms of creating a new coin, which we actually use, that would be the solution, I think, to remodel the penny and change its value in that way. That said, I don't think that is the correct solution. One thing that I think many people's objection to removing the penny boils down to is that many people, straight put, do not like change. The penny has been around as long as most people can remember. The thing is to remember about pennies is that we don't have to change much about them, just their worth. We don't even have to get rid of the penny entirely. We simply create this new 2 or 3 cent coin, the Rosa Parks penny, and we say the old pennies are still U.S. tender, that you can still buy things with them, but we recommend you exchange all of your pennies for the Rosa Parks penny, as businesses will no longer be required to accept pennies, although the government still will, and probably, as many people say, charitable organizations still will, for any donation is a good donation. That said, of course, I think that this is not a perfect solution, only that this is a solution which could sidestep at least several of the aspects of this debate that many people have. We could solve the main parts of this issue, though it still leaves things up in the air, like the fact that a 3 cent coin wouldn't be that useful anyways, but it would remove the pure and obvious waste that we're putting into every penny. It would also allow us to keep around the penny, and, as I said with the idea of a Rosa Parks penny, or the MLK penny, many people have argued that there has been no person who's not both white, male, and dead for the last several hundred years. So, one thing that this would also solve is that this new penny could be both female, of African American descent, and be a person of recent history. Or, in the case of MLK, recent history and male and of African American descent. But I think that this is just a solution which allows us to move past the primary issues with this. That said, for all I know, there's some of you in the comments who know an obvious reason why this wouldn't work or why we couldn't do this. So I beg you, please put this in the comments. Let us talk about this. Let's try to understand why this solution would work or wouldn't work. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good day.